Well, there are a lot of folks who live in the U.S. alone. Many say they actually prefer it. In fact, a recent study by the CDC shows that between 2012 and 2022, single-person households jumped from nearly 5 million to 38 million.
And that same study also found that living alone does increase chances of feeling depressed. However, there are simple ways to avoid that. So joining us now is licensed clinical psychologist, Dr. Tasha Brown. Dr. Brown, first, just walk us through this study. What are the major takeaways when it comes to living alone?
Yeah, so this study is a really great study because I think it sheds so much interesting light on the state of how people live in America today. So one of the big study findings is that people who are living alone, 9% of them report feeling symptoms of depression when you compare it to 4% of people who live with other people. And though it's not a huge number difference, statistically, it's a big jump. So people who are living alone are more likely to experience symptoms of depression.
That is alarming, right?
Yeah.
So talk about why social support is so essential when you live alone and examples of what that could look like so that you can help stave off that depression and anxiety.
Yeah, from a clinical perspective, one of the things we always talk about is social connectedness. So how much does a person feel valued, supported, connected to people outside of themselves? And there's so many different ways to create social support. So you can join an organization of people who have like-minded interests. You can join a gym. You can think about creating meaningful social interactions with the people who are already in your network. So do you want to go to coffee? Do you want to go for lunch? And actually keeping those appointments and following through with them are great ways to keep social connectedness.
You know, those are great ideas, but a lot of people really struggle.
Yeah.
They really struggle to just climb the hump of those social interactions. And frankly, it's intimidating. We just did a segment on dating. And I have to say, I think making friends as an adult can be as difficult as dating. What do you say to people who struggle in that department?
Yeah, that is something to really take into consideration, especially when we talk about what people living alone are experiencing, symptoms of depression. And that leads to lots of isolation, social withdrawal. And so one of the things, and I know the last segment was about apps, is connecting from a media perspective. We have lots of different apps and things available where you can start meaningful types of connection, even if it's not in person, even if you're not getting out and going out. Any bit of communication and social connectedness really helps and supports.
Oh, so baby steps, maybe starting virtually, but then eventually the goal probably to connect in person. It seems like it's more fulfilling and meaningful that way when you're actually having real life interactions.
Yes, there's nothing that compares to that face-to-face, one-on-one interaction because there's lots of things that we get out of that. Eye contact, physical contact, the ability to read body language. There's so much that we get from a social perspective that boosts our mental health just from being in the same room as people.
And it's interesting because you mentioned depression, you know, being a major symptom or even byproduct of this type of isolation. How can you be there for someone who's depressed? How do you show up for them?
That's a beautiful question. Call. So send a text message, call, send a card, send Uber Eats something in the mail. Create moments of connection. Ask them if they want to come out. Even if they don't always say yes or come, create a moment of connection because moments of connection go really far.
Yeah, they kind of all build on each other.
Yeah.
All right, clinical psychologist Tasha Brown, thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
Cool. Thanks for having me.